And so once you say debunked, anybody who will ask a question after that is either crazy or a conspiracy theorist or insane or sinister in some way or all four, right? You're basically as crazy as Bobby Kennedy if you continue to question something that's been debunked because it's been debunked. On the question of debunking, so what happens is that everybody knows that, gravity is the force that pulls people toward the center of the earth. Everybody knows the earth rotates around the sun. And these things are just taken for granted. And just as strong as that, I would say just about everybody knows that the idea of a link between vaccines and autism has been debunked. And all kinds of intelligent people will say to you, but that's been debunked, that's been debunked. You know that's been debunked, don't you? But that's been debunked. It's a very common hand-waving argument. And yet, just about nobody can answer these two simple questions. Who debunked it, and how was it debunked? There's even a third question. Why was it debunked? Suddenly the conversation's over. They can't tell you. Well, here's who debunked it. The Institute of Medicine debunked it. And how did they debunk it? By the method I described to you earlier. They get a group of experts together. They sometimes have public hearings. They assess the issue in terms of how it needs to be concluded, and they use the same process they used for Agent Orange. Not only the same process, Russell, the same people, and the same language. In the book, I list the 5 categories that they had to choose from for Agent Orange. Things like no association, meaning no association between Agent Orange and birth defects, a limited association, no evidence of an association, a possible association, none of the options, by the way, being, holy shit, yes, it's definitely connected. That's not one of them. But they list them, and I list them in the book, and I say which one of these are the categories for vaccines, childhood vaccines, and which one of these are the categories for Agent Orange, the chemical weapon. And both. The answer is both. They are the same categories in each circumstance. So that while parents wouldn't love the idea that their childhood vaccines are assessed in the same way that a chemical weapon is assessed, that is actually the reality. And so once you say debunked, you basically, anybody who will ask a question after that is either crazy or a conspiracy theorist or insane, or sinister in some way, or all four, right? You're basically as crazy as Bobby Kennedy if you continue to question something that's been debunked because it's been debunked. Now, what happens in this book, humorously, is that I talk about how they debunked the connection between baby powder and cancer, for example. That one got rebunked, my own word, meaning it kept coming back. They debunked it, but it kept coming back, and it kept coming back until finally even the FDA had to say, okay, asbestos is bad for babies. You know asbestos, that stuff we remove from the wall, that stuff we condemn buildings over. We agree now you shouldn't sprinkle it on babies. That's the rebunking, basically. But the debunking piece, it says if you question this, you're stupid, you're anti-science, and you're an idiot because it's been debunked. And the reality is that when you see the method by which these things are supposedly debunked, you recognize how flawed it is, how all the incentives are broken, what clearly the U.S. government cannot do its own homework, which is what, grade its own homework, which is what's happening when it says, let's see, where can we send a check to somebody where they'll agree that burn pits don't cause cancer, burn pits don't make you sick, why it may even be good to be breathing the smoke from burn pits, or Gulf War syndrome, what? Huh? What's Gulf War syndrome? Let's give it to the Institute of Medicine and they'll figure this out for us, and surely they did. Guess what? No problem, no Gulf War syndrome. Never mind that the Veterans Administration and university after university found that Gulf War syndrome was a very real thing. The Institute of Medicine didn't agree. And they are, after all, the Institute of Medicine. And so that's debunking and how it works, and why we should never be persuaded that that word ought to govern things. I'm laughing because there's a section in this book where the spokesperson for Johnson & Johnson, they lose all these trials, right? And trials are a real test of information, right? A trial has experts from both sides, etc. They lose and they lose and they lose. And then finally the FDA comes around and says, okay, maybe it's bad, asbestos. And a Johnson & Johnson spokesperson says, well, we believe that all of these studies are flawed. And I have a joke in there that if she were the last survivor on Earth of baby powder poisoning, she'd still be reading that press statement. That's what she's doing. And so debunking is a very powerful method. The JFK was assassinated by a conspiracy as opposed to an individual. Oh, that's been debunked. That's been debunked. You always have to ask, and what I hope readers of this book will do after reading it is ask who debunked it, ask why it was debunked. Interesting, by the way, I said the two questions were who debunked it and how.
Yeah.
But the third question is why. And I'll tell you why it had to be debunked. Had nothing to do with Bobby Kennedy. Everybody thinks that Bobby Kennedy is the source of all things to do with vaccines. At that point, Bobby Kennedy had already vaccinated 7 of his kids. He was now working on mercury in fish. Nobody ever called him anti-fish. But as soon as he talked about mercury in vaccines, they called him anti-vaccine. But years before that, there was study after study after study about the association between vaccines and autism, for God's sake. It wasn't something that came up out of nowhere. And that's why it needed to be debunked, because of all those studies, not to mention the thousands and thousands of parents who said, my baby was fine, even sometimes my 4-year-old child was fine. And then we had that day of 3 or 4 vaccines, and when we came home that night, she had terrible seizures, which, by the way, the Institute of Medicine and the FDA will tell you seizures is totally normal for babies. That's called, we've given it a name, it's called febrile seizures, and it's just fine, no problem. And why are you even worried about that? Just because you ended up in the emergency room. It's the second leading cause, by the way, of emergency room visits is seizures after vaccines. But the veterinarians, the pediatricians could be either, will tell you, babies have seizures. Now, can you imagine a product for adults, and it said, side effect will be seizures. It's no problem. Don't even call us about it. Just let the baby go to sleep. But it's adults, right? The reason that adult seizures would be a problem is because they might happen when you're driving or you're standing up and you fall down. But infants, of course, they're already falling down. They're laying down. So it's no problem. Seizures. This thing that panicked you to madness, that you parents are screaming and through traffic to get to the emergency room, was no problem. It's just a febrile seizure. And that's what they had to do because of vaccine-induced seizures. And so these are some of the ways that debunking
They
works.
had to rebrand seizures as a seizure a day. It's not that bad.
Keeps the doctor away.
Yeah, the occasional seizure is good for a child. How else will they grow robust against future seizures? And the sort of dreadful utility implicit in, because a baby's not operating a combine harvester or driving a taxi cab, it can have seizures as long as it wants and as frequently as it wants to. Fume! It's flavoured air. Have you ever found yourself reaching out for a bad habit? Reach instead for flavoured air. Maybe it's out of stress, boredom, or just wanting to fit in. Well, that's where Fume comes in. It's not about quitting, it's about replacing. Fume, the sponsor of today's video, offers a simple and enjoyable way to break away from bad habits while still having something satisfying to reach for. Reach for Fume. No vapor, no nicotine, just flavor. Fume is the award-winning flavored air device that delivers great taste without any harmful chemicals. Instead of inhaling vapor, you simply breathe in natural, non-toxic flavors that satisfy the craving without the downside. Great for oral fixation and fidgeting, whether you're looking to keep your hands busy or curb an urge. Fume's premium wooden design is built for flavor and function. It's sleek, portable, built to last, designed with high quality build and sleek aesthetic. Fume feels premium to your hand and you can take it anywhere. I use crispy mint flavor. That's the flavor that I use when I use Fume. When I'm reaching for something, crispy mint, that's where I go. Over 500,000 people have made the switch to Fume as part of their habit change journey. If you're ready to try it for yourself, now's the time. For a limited time, if you order the Journey Pack using my code, Russel Brand, you'll get a free Fume topper, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Click the link, tryfume.com/Russel Brand, or scan the QR code on the screen to get yours today. Fume is simply flavored air. There are worse things to do. Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Rumble.